Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 5. We would like to explain about SLA or second language acquisition. We are from group 5 consisting of me, Sapat Tenggar Fadilah Mulana with student number of 011.
And me, Saista Sekarsidati, 012.
And my name is Deha Ayu Salita, of 13.
And my name is Dania, with student number 016.
Next. The first thing is, what is SLA? SLA, or second language acquisition, is a field of study that investigates how humans pick up languages other than their first. Next. SLA, or second language, refers to any language learner after one's first language or L1, no matter how many others have been learned. The central theme of SLA research is that of interlanguage, or the idea that the language that learners use is not simply the result of difference between the languages that they already know and the language that they are learning, but a complete language system in its own right with its own systematic rules. Next. How do we acquire language? Babies are taught to hear and respond to voices even before they are born. They begin to learn sounds, words, and pace and rhythm of language in utero. After they are born, they learn to imitate the language and tongue movements of language by observing those around them. Adults who learn a second language differ from children learning their first language in at least 3 ways, which are: the first, children are still developing their brains, whereas adults have mature minds. Second, adults have at least a first language that orients their thinking and speaking. Number 3, although some adult second language learners reach a very high level of proficiency, pronunciation tends to be non-native.
Then why do we say that mathematics is learned, not acquired? Next, please. Mathematics is learned because it needs deliberate study and practice. You have to actively learn the rules and methods. On the other hand, acquiring a language, especially your first one, happens naturally through exposure and interaction without formal study. Next, please. What kind of input is necessary for acquisition? Next. For language acquisition, you need comprehensible input. This means hearing or reading language that you can mostly understand. Even if it's a bit difficult, the language should be meaningful and used in the real-life context, so you can figure out new words and grammar naturally. If you don't hear or see the language, then you can learn the language. For example, think about language that you have never heard or seen. For me, maybe Russian. Now try to speak the language. You can't because it's impossible since you never heard or see the language. Next.
SLA comparison with first language and acquisition. Some errors that second language learners make in their speech originate in their first language. For example, Spanish speakers learning English may say "it's raining" rather than "it is raining," leaving out the subject of the sentence because of the two languages have different rules. Most mistakes in the second language are due to interference from the first language. Many mistakes in learning a second language happen because of interference from your first language. For example, you might apply rules for your first language to second language incorrectly. But mistakes can also come from other sources, like overgeneralizing rules in the new language or just complexity of the language itself. This kind of influence of the first language on the second is known as negative language transfer.
People with high IQs are good language learners. I disagree. Having a high IQ can help with memory and problem solving, which are useful for learning language, but it is not the only factor. Motivation, practice, and exposure to the language are also very important. Language learning involves more than just intelligence. Learners become more advanced the longer they are immersed in the language they are learning, and the more they spend voluntarily reading based on the input hypothesis by Stephen Question. Do you believe that second language learning is possible with only a focus on function, communication, and no focus on form, grammar? Why? Explain your answer. I learned that learning a second language with a focus on communication is very important and helps you use the language in real situation. However, some focus on grammar is also needed to avoid making mistakes and to improve accuracy. A mix of both communication practice and grammar study works best for becoming truly proficient in a language.
Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Wassalamualaikum
Wassalamualaikum
Assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.